Nintendo, a quick-loading cartridge system with over 60 of the hottest titles ever. Games like Batman, a life-and-death struggle to end the evil Joker's reign of terror and save Gotham City. Games like Super Mario Brothers, a battle to rescue the Mushroom Princess from the evil Koopa Turtles. Go for the joystick for extra control, or go to infrared for remote control. The hottest games are on Nintendo, the world's #1 game system.
So there is the crash, and everyone is very familiar with this particular console, the Nintendo Entertainment System. So later on, the video game crash occurs, and companies are completely destroyed overnight. Just about everybody folds and disappears. Only the strong survive, and even they are injured by the situation. Coleco is knocked off the market by both issues with its video game industry as well as massive recalls on their Atom computer. Mattel decides to fold up and get out of the gaming console business completely, and only Atari is left. So during the great crash of '83, kind of carries into 1984, we see home gaming pretty much come to a standstill. Stores are full of discounted goods all over the place, bargain basement prices, but otherwise nothing new is coming out. However, Christmas of 1984, the Nintendo Entertainment System makes its debut for that Christmas season in North America. However, it has been changed subtly in order to distance itself from the gaming console market. First of all, it is called the Nintendo Entertainment System. So it's not striking itself out as a gaming console, but trying to go back to the roots of being a toy. The Nintendo came packaged with the infamous Rob the Robot, your robotic operating buddy. This robot allowed you to sort of vaguely, interactively participate with games. This robot was quickly discontinued, and only people who bought early Nintendos ever had it, and was well known for its complete sucking of batteries. With that, Nintendo came out, and basically began the next revolution of gaming. The Nintendo decided to go with what is now basically well known as the simple control pad, using your thumbs for complete control overall, differentiating itself from arcades as we have known them at that time, but giving you the ability for very quick reactions as well as multiple buttons and a fairly comfortable feel in your hands.
So no numeric keypad, no leaf overlays, and
no, nothing like that at all. A simple, straightforward controller that you wouldn't have to make any other additions to or anything like that.
If you're looking for the best shows on television, don't switch channels. Switch controls. Nintendo, the best shows on television.
There was the Nintendo Zapper, which was essentially bringing the light gun into the house, but on a much larger scale compared to its past appearances. So there was the Zapper, which came with most Nintendos as a standard. Certainly there was the infamous Power Glove, which is often mistaken to have anything to do with Nintendo, but in fact was manufactured by Mattel, strictly as their own project, and as we have all seen, many people have tried it, and it is really not that great. Looks good, but not so good in practice. The Game Genie was conceived by a company called Codemasters in the UK. Codemasters had been making games for UK computer systems in the past, and so were quite familiar and certainly well known for doing some impressive things at the time with their development resources. What they came up with was the device known as the Game Genie, and this device would simply fit in between a cartridge and allow you to insert a series of codes that would alter the aspects of gameplay, making you invincible, giving you items, or making the game harder if you wanted more challenge, or skipping levels and so forth. The interesting bit of trivia about this particular unit, the Game Genie, is that initially it had a lawsuit leveled against it as it was an unlicensed device. Therefore, Nintendo had a very strict series of license policy and worked very hard to make sure that the Game Genie could not be released, thinking it was compromising its hold on the market. It was halted in its sales briefly in the United States, but not in Canada. It was released in Canada unbarred Therefore, there was a massive sale of them in Canada, and many, many people came up from the United States to their neighbor to the north and picked up large quantities of the Game Genie to bring it down and resell it there, or at least possess it. Eventually, it was overturned that there was no intellectual property of Nintendo's involved in the making of this, and therefore unrestricted sales occurred. And from that point on, Game Genies that were manufactured were licensed by the console manufacturer as an addition to increase the sale of video games or increase the life of video games.
So obviously the hardware for the NES is vastly superior to anything that was going on right before the crash.
Certainly the NES is far superior. It's easily on par with some of the earlier home computers, even sharing some similar hardware, but with some customized chips and such. It was basically given a huge facelift in the way of gaming and the way it looked and the capabilities that it provided. Another aspect of Nintendo games was the creation of a long-term game, an adventure game, the pull away from games that were strictly arcade replications, games where you're just trying to see how far you could get in a single instance, or games that are strictly for score. Games that many people are familiar with, like Legend of Zelda, created the world of the adventure game that went well beyond a single instance play. You create long amounts of playtime in these games. They also introduced things such as battery backup, which allowed you to save your games on the cartridge and resume them later on, which was, at that time, a fascinating and altogether new discovery amongst gaming.
The Legend of Zelda continues. Defeat your enemies, save the kingdom, use your sword. Beware. I cannot help you.
Find the crystals. Rescue the princess.
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And now, get into the latest Nintendo games, Ghostbusters 2 and Iron Sword. Only from Nintendo, now you're playing with power.
Probably another factor in the success of the NES is the use of Mario games.
Certainly Super Mario, in the beginning, was sort of present. He certainly wasn't as well known as he is today, making his first appearance in Donkey Kong, merely called Jumpman for the most part. But later on, with the advent of Super Mario Brothers and previous game Mario Brothers from the arcade, started to create a character with a backstory and an adventure series that now spans multiple consoles and multiple games, but definitely got its its beginnings on the Nintendo. And after a while, it became Super Mario Brothers was the standard pack-in title, usually combined with Duck Hunt or possibly Track and Field as what came with your console, so that you could put it in and play it right away. A very popular game, accessible to many.
So to this day, if you want to play Mario games, you're buying a Nintendo console.
At this point, yes.
So it's a smart move to make that. And the other consoles tried to have mascot characters, and very few of them have been able to keep up with Mario.
Certainly Mario created the idea that perhaps having a mascot for your system would draw sales and create a brand loyalty kind of situation. But very few create and keep that image for any long period of time.
So Sonic the Hedgehog for a bit?
Certainly Sonic is certainly the number 2 as a recognizable outside of the Nintendo realm. But Nintendo has been very good at making long-term mascot characters, such as Link, Legend of Zelda, Mario Brothers, Metroid. These are franchises that just exist, that people know now for years and years and years, and they're still making games to this day.
Nintendo. It's a cereal! Wow! Nintendo. Super Mario Jump! Nintendo. They have 2 flavors first! Nintendo cereal system is part of this picture's breakfast. Nintendo. 2 cereals in 1!
Sonic, certainly for Sega, was definitely their big mascot, but they definitely went through a number of other various mascots that appeared on their system. Few people remember in their 8-bit days with the Sega Master System, there was Alex Kidd, who was somewhat a mascot for a while, but just could never fit into a mold that worked properly to get with the collective consciousness.
Blades of Steel. Face Off.